Hmm. Hello, you there?
Hi.
Hello.
I can't hear you. Give me 1 second. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Ah, perfect. There we go. Right. Uh, right. Um, the slides look okay on screen. You can just see the slides, not the director notes or anything.
Yeah, they're not in presentation mode though.
Ah, right. Okay. How about now?
Uh, oh, yep. There you go.
Perfect. Okay. Great. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Steph.
Hello, how are
Hello.
you?
Hi.
Very good. Thanks.
Do I
Good.
need to have the same background?
Um, I'm not sure why you haven't, to be honest. Everyone should have the same background.
Okay, just wondering.
Um, we did last week.
There you go.
Ah, brilliant. Very good.
I need to spend a penny. It always happens when I start. It's my body's way of going, bah. Do you mind if I spend a penny?
Spend two if you want, babe.
Just the one. All right, 1 second. Bear with me.
Are you still there, Matt? Have we lost you?
Yep, nope, still here. Sorry,
Okay, no
I was on mute.
worries.
Um, we're just waiting for Laura to join us. There's a couple of people in the waiting room already, which is great.
Matt,
Um,
who are the people that we're talking to? Who's the audience?
so it's a mix. I mean, we tend to actively target sort of HR managers, people leaders, line managers, that sort of group. But we also get a lot of attendees who are um, attending because it's an area of particular personal interest. Either it's discussing a topic that's affected them, or someone they manage, or someone they support. Um, so it's a mix of kind of people who've got professional interest and lived experience
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, thank you. Should have asked that early on day one.
No problem at all. Um, in terms of when we ask people to register, we also ask them to sort of, there was an optional question as to what they're particularly interested in. I had a look through that, and the things that kept coming up were the symptoms to look out for. Brain fog, as a term, got mentioned a lot. Retention and how we encourage people to stay in work has been mentioned quite a bit. And the other thing that came up was the role of men within their organisations and making sure that men were like educated on the topic and confident having that discussion. So yeah, those are the kind of the recurring themes amongst the
Brilliant.
questions that were posed in advance.
Great.
When we get to the Q&A at the end, Matt, if there haven't been too many live questions, we can kind of combine some of those interests to put together some questions at the end of the hour.
Perfect. Hi Laura, are you there?
I am, yeah. Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Perfect. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, good, very good.
Just bear with me. I'm having fun with the virtual background still loading.
Oh yeah, we had this last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
Does anyone mind if I take a picture and post it to social?
Good
Feel
for
free.
me.
No, by all means.
Do it now while I've got my glasses off.
Will you? How can we do this? I guess we can take a picture and we can do a screenshot, can't we?
Yeah.
All right, so if you don't mind all smiling. Perfect. That's brilliant.
Oh, hello.
Sarah looks like she's walking into the building there. That was a bit weird, wasn't it? Did you see that?
Yeah, that's the thing with the backgrounds. Every now and then you disappear.
That's a really nice picture. I'll post that afterwards.
So we'll start in a few minutes. In terms of what we'll all be doing, I shall, for the most part, be sitting quietly in the background, monitoring the chat. If you've got any issues, obviously you can message me privately through the chat. I'll help with anyone that's got accessibility issues and so on in the background. And yeah, Kate, I see we have the Q&A questions in front of you.
Yep, I do.
Perfect. Anyone else got any questions or concerns before we start? We've got about 6 minutes, so we've got a bit of time.
Yeah, Kate, are you going to be doing, have you got my slides with you?
Matt's in charge of the slides.
Yep, I've
All
got the
right,
slides.
brilliant.
So, yeah,
Um,
there you go.
so, you've put them in green. Brilliant. Well done. So I might just say next slide, please, Matt, and just do
Yeah,
it like
that's
that.
fine. Yeah, perfect.
Is there any way that you can take the virtual background off me? Because I think it's our settings that won't allow somebody else to put a virtual background against
That's
us.
That's strange.
And just while Matt's doing that, will we stay on at the end and have a debrief, or will we just go on in separate ways?
I think that's always useful. Happy, I've got in my diary, so if people can stick around, I think it's always great to have a quick 5-10 minutes at the end.
Sure.
It's not showing us to try and fix this background issue.
Sarah, did you get my voice note?
Yes, thank you. Just about to reply.
No.
That's a beautiful bracelet, by the way. The necklace right around your neck.
Oh, thanks. Kate, how are you feeling?
Too bad, thanks.
Good.
You seem to have lost Laura.
Yeah.
Right. I'll set the virtual background to none as default, so hopefully.
There you
Oh,
go.
there you are.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Laura.
Oh, that's good.
Good, good, good. Hi,
Good, good.
everyone. Have a face.
3 minutes to spare, Laura. You did
Yeah. I think like a bit of good stress, hey?
it. No, no stress.
Those slides look all right. Right format.
Yep.
Yeah, they're great. Great.
Great. Cool.
I just asked, where does everyone live? Or where is everyone based?
I'm South London.
Nice.
South East
Yeah,
London.
Nice.
I'm up in the Midlands,
Oh, nice.
Birmingham.
Do you work from home, Kate and Laura, or do you
We're hybrid, so we do 2-3 days
hybrid?
in the office. Yeah.
Oh,
So when
yeah.
we're in the office, we're in the square mile, smack bang in the centre.
Wow. I'm in North London, Hertfordshire.
Yeah, Matt and I actually don't live very far away from each other. He actually lives behind the school that my mum taught at when before I was born. So yeah, small.
Oh, that's nice. Does Matt know that he's also known as Kate Finnis today?
I was just looking at that. I don't know why it
Yeah.
says
I've just
me.
renamed it and it hasn't worked, so I'm not quite sure. Oh, hold on. Let's try it. Yes, there we go. Right,
Oh,
just one
well
side.
done.
There you go.
We've got a few attendees in the waiting room, so I shall start letting people.
Hi, everyone. We'll just give a couple of minutes to let people join. online and dial in. If, like me, you had a Zoom update when you logged on just now, it might take you a couple of extra minutes. So we'll just give another 30 to 60 seconds to let people join the virtual room. Super. So welcome everybody to the fifth and final webinar in our series of 2025. So today we're looking at empowering midlife women at work, creating a supportive workplace environment. Most of you will probably know a little bit about This Is Me, which is the healthy pillar of the Lord Mayor's Appeal. I'm going to facilitate today. My name's Kate. I look after all of our corporate partners at the Lord Mayor's Appeal, and we're really pleased to have you all join us today. As I said, many of you will be familiar with the work of the Lord Mayor's Appeal and also with the This Is Me programme. And at the end of the hour, our head of programmes, Matt, will share more about the This Is Me programme and future opportunities to get involved. But do feel free to ask general questions about Lord Mayor's Appeal and about the programme as we work through the webinar today. We're always happy to have a conversation and a chat about the work that we're delivering in the Square Mile and further afield. So in terms of some housekeeping today, this is a webinar, which means that your cameras won't be on unless you're a speaker, and you'll also be on mute today. But please do be interactive. Feel free to use the chat and the Q&A to submit any questions and comments that you have at any point during today's session. And with all of the work that we deliver around mental health and wellbeing through our This Is Me programme, just be aware that some of the conversations and the topics that we're talking about today might be triggering for some people. So do feel free to step away from your screen if you need to. Don't worry about missing anything. We're recording today's session and that will be followed up after today so that everybody has access to that recording. And we'll also be putting that on our This Is Me hub as well. Excuse me. So Matt will talk to you a little bit more about that at the end of the hour. So if you haven't already got access, you'll be able to get access to this recording and to all of the tools and resources that we have on our This Is Me hub. So I'm really excited today to be joined by three fantastic panelists who are going to share their knowledge, personal experience and their expertise around the topic. So I would like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves to you and tell us a little bit about themselves. And if we can start with Laura, then Sarah, and then we'll move on to Steph. And then Steph's going to share a short presentation and give us some context as well around her work and what she does. So Laura, hi.
Hi, thanks, Kate. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. So my name's Laura Dutton and I work for PwC here in the UK. So I'm actually specifically part of our Inclusion, Culture and Wellbeing Centre of Excellence and specifically the wellbeing part of that team. So I have been with the firm for too many years to remember, 20-something years, a long time, and feel really privileged to spend a full-time role doing things that I care so much about. Yeah, so that's me.
Thanks, Laura. Can we move on to you then, Sarah, please?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah Collins. I work at TalkSport. I'm an editor there, but it means nothing to you if you don't do radio, but I'm not in front of the microphone, I'm behind it, so I'll make that really clear. I've got the face for radio. TalkSport is one of the world's biggest sport radio stations. It's based down in London. I am from Manchester. I moved down here 5 years ago. My role is to keep an eye on output. I work weekends and lates. And I also keep an eye on the crazy talent that we have on TalkSport as well. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Fabulous. Thanks, Sarah. And Steph.
Hello. I'm going to actually touch on a little bit of some stats and then some really interesting ways that we can bring this to life a little bit. And then I'll mention who I am, if that's okay. So I'm going to start by asking a rhetorical question as Matt loads the slides nice and seamlessly. Have you ever wondered why some of the most talented, experienced females in your organization seem to hit a wall right in the middle of their career? You might not see it on the surface, but many women, the daily struggle to balance their work life, their health, and their commitments outside of work are taking a serious toll on them and their business. And if we dig a bit deeper into that, I share a truth that no one else is saying. And that is that some women, some teams, and organizations are actually bored of talking and hearing about menopause. Everyone leaves suddenly. And we're at a crossroad where, yes, we're talking about it. And yes, the conversation is happening. But now, how do we move forward? And I'm here today to reassure you that you're in the right place. Because today we're going to shine a light on those challenges that these women in the workplace are suffering. But more importantly, I'm going to share some practical ways that you can turn those challenges into opportunities. Opportunities to build trust, to retain this top talent. Retention was one of the top feedbacks that we got from you when you filled out your form. And also how to create a culture where everyone can deal with the root cause of what's going on and take strides in the right direction forward. So hello and welcome everybody. I am Stephanie Daniels and I'm the CEO of Life Begins at Menopause. And I specialize in helping women 40 plus navigate hormonal changes, energy fluctuations, and career challenges. And I've seen firsthand the positive difference it makes when organizations take intentional and evidence-based steps to support these women. So today, I don't have long, and I've got lots to tell you, and I'm going to share as much as I can in the time that we have. And then for those of you who want to go a little deeper, I'll show you how we can connect afterwards to start implementing those strategies into your organization. So we're going to move on to the next slide, and I'm going to break this up into 3 actionable bits that you can kind of take away today. So let's talk about action. Let's start with the numbers, the cost of inaction, not doing anything. So over 370,000 women aged between 50 and 64 in the UK have either left or seriously considered leaving their career because they're dealing with these symptoms like crippling anxiety, like brain fog, where many of my clients say to me, I have cotton wool for brain, and they just don't know how to get through that, and fatigue in the workplace. And these symptoms felt impossible to overcome. And that's a loss of not just talent, but this institutional knowledge, this expertise and mentorship that your organization might never get back. And that is such a waste. Menopause-related symptoms also cost the UK economy around 1.8 billion annually in lost productivity. Now, that's just the UK. And these stats prove that this isn't just a well-being issue, it's a strategic priority. But there's good news. The good news is that implementing these solutions aren't expensive and they're not complicated. We don't need huge budgets to do them. We can work with what we have. And so I'll always meet my client or I'll always meet the organization wherever they are. We just need to start by building trust. We need to start being brave and implementing processes. And then we need to learn from what works and what doesn't. And as long as we stay committed to change and growth, the magic happens. So there's a confidence gap in line managers, mainly men, but there's a confidence gap with women as well. And one of the most consistent issues I hear is that these managers don't feel confident addressing these sensitive topics like menopause. And it's understandable when it's men because they haven't walked the walk. And these conversations sometimes aren't easy. I get that. But the silence is far more costly as an alternative. So when managers avoid the subject and don't talk about it at all, they risk sending this message that these challenges don't matter and we need to ignore the cues in our body. Now, let me tell you something. If we ignore our bodies when they whisper, they will end up shouting. So what starts as a small headache will soon turn into a migraine and a day off of work. So instead of relying on vague commitments or this one-size-fits-all solution, let's focus on building the trust through simple actions, like training managers to ask open-ended questions and listening without judgment. That's it. Just ask and listen. And that in itself can be a great place to start and be a huge stride towards transformation in the workplace culture. Each one of your organizations today are nuanced. And I've worked with Sarah, not personally, but I've worked in News UK. And I know that, for example, News UK has its own language, has its own culture and its own way of doing things. And the same with PwC. So we need a nuanced approach. We need a tailored solution that fits with your team's needs. So instead of saying we're here to help with the menopause and here's a lovely manual we've put together, we need to equip even them with tools. We need to say, how can I support you? What do you need today? Tell me, how are you feeling? And just that small shift will have a huge impact. So then my favorite, we then move from awareness to action. Inclusion is not just about what we say, but more imperatively, it's about what we do. This movement from awareness, to action is about creating measurable results so that we have this ongoing movement of change. So here's a framework for action. You can write it down, you can listen back to this webinar, but just take this. This is a tried and tested framework that works time and time again. We need to start by looking inward and asking the right questions. What specific challenges are the women in your organization facing? Where are the gaps? And what impact do those challenges and gaps have on your goal as a business? We then get all that information, all those beautiful insights from your employees, from your organization, from external research, and that informs our strategy and helps it take shape. And we then implement. We start small with low-cost initiatives, things like peer support groups, and we run them in lunchtime so that people don't have to take time off work. We have mental health first aiders dotted around the place, and we have flexible schedules which build trust and their, in turn, momentum over time. And lastly, we evaluate. So we've prepared, we've executed, and then we evaluate. We use the results from those peer groups. We use feedback from managers, and we continue to do what works, and we forget the rest. We need to not reinvent the wheel here. The most impactful initiatives are often the simplest, and they create space for open conversation. So one of my clients recently was still a bit nervous about doing everything, and we called it a pilot scheme. We said we're implementing a pilot scheme, and it sets you up for making mistakes because they know that it's a trial, it's a beta program. Let's go to the next slide, please, Matt. I'm going to close and I'm just going to tell you that my journey has been no different to the one that I teach. So I went from corporate chaos to calm confidence. And I threw myself, when I smashed into a surgical menopause in 2017, I threw myself into a 3-year diploma at the College of Naturopathic Medicine. I became an accredited coach through the International Coaching Federation. And now I work with a beautiful piece of equipment called my bioresonance machine. And that scans the body for imbalances so that I can then get to the root cause of what is going on with my client, rather than endlessly chasing symptoms. And now I want to pass all my knowledge on to you. I'm bored of talking about why and the stats, if you haven't gathered already. We need to look the opportunity square in the eye and make change happen. And you here today, having shown up for this webinar, you now have the power to turn these challenges into measurable results. So by earning the trust of your employees and implementing these clear, actionable strategies, we can create a workplace where women and everyone else can get back to feeling their old selves again, for themselves, for their families, the business, and for the next generation who are going to follow in their footsteps. So if this resonates with you, if this is bringing up emotion, that's a good thing. Let's connect. I work with organizations just like you to create these tailored programs to address these challenges head on so that we can get away from making inclusion a buzzword and make it a measurable success.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Steph. I think it really gives context and sets the scene really nicely for what we're going to spend the next 45 minutes talking about. So I'd like to start with just a quick fire question to all of our panelists this morning, or this afternoon, sorry. And for anyone joining virtually, if you feel like you have some insight and some answers to some of the questions that we're going to be discussing, do feel free to use that Q&A or the chat to get involved and to share your thoughts. So just the first quick fire question to everyone is, what do you think is the biggest myth or stereotype that you see or hear when you're discussing the challenges facing midlife women in the workplace? So happy for anyone to jump in with that one.
I think I'll jump in first. I think for me, it's probably the assumption that because I am in this demographic myself, are kind of less adaptable or resistant to change, whether it's to their job role, roles and responsibilities, or that we're kind of happy where we are and not ambitious. So I think that's kind of that stereotype about being stuck in our ways a little bit, when in reality we are highly adaptable. We've got so many valuable skills, experience that just make us totally capable of adapting. We've got all that wealth of knowledge, that institutional knowledge that you already mentioned, those leadership skills, and I think the most critical one, the emotional intelligence. So I think that's probably the biggest one for me.
Thanks, Laura. Sarah, is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Laura's kind of nailed it. I think as well, I work in a particularly male-dominated environment, and it's a young male-dominated environment, and that can be quite hard, being a woman of experience, trying to pass on your help and support, because sometimes people think that while they're striving to be ambitious and passionate, which is absolutely what we want, they're sometimes not wanting to listen to the one woman in the office that's maybe giving them some guidance and support. They might see it like something else. And I think that when a few women in the office might be showing symptoms of menopause, especially if they don't know it, then they can absolutely fall into the stereotypical view of a emotional woman. And it's really, really hard. But I'm not all positive. I'm not all down, as I've got some great positives. So that's the kind of stereotype, that we come across, but I've got some great positive examples as well. Don't worry.
Thanks, Sarah. Steph, have you got something to add to that?
Yeah, I think that it's a myth of just ignoring our bodies. I think out of what I just said, that's the one thing that I can get. So I will sit opposite a woman or a man, and they will say, she's just hormonal. But we don't, most of us don't really know what hormones are. And I'm just going to give you a quick 101. In their simplest form, the brain has a job to get the body back into balance, and it sends a hormone, which is a chemical messenger, to the body to do that job, to get the body back into balance. So it could be that, we need, there's danger coming, we need to release stress. And so the hormone will go to the adrenal glands and it will release the cortisol. So when we say things like we're hormonal, or it's fine, I've got a headache, I'm just ignoring it, I'm going to plow on, we are ignoring beautiful insight into our body. And so we need to lean into that. We need to tune out the outside noise of, I read on Instagram that magnesium is going to fix all my problems, or everyone's taking testosterone, I'm going to take testosterone and I'll be fine. We need to tune that out. We need to tune into our bodies. And that's what I would leave you with.
Thank you. Leading on from that, actually, Steph, what would you say about today's topic makes you feel that this is something that everyone should be aware of? And kind of to touch on Sarah's point earlier around kind of the diversity in the workplace, and so why is this a topic for everyone, not just perimenopausal and menopausal women?
Well, this retention, you invest so much into your staff, and you invest in this well-being, health and well-being, diversity and inclusion. You want to see results from it. So we need that retention in that talent, but we need to empower those people that they're okay, they're in a safe place, they're not in danger, they don't need to leave. And it affects absolutely everybody. I think that women who are with organizations for, like Laura, for 20 years, or Sarah, who brings a wealth of information and passion to her job, they are unbelievable mentors for the next generation coming up. And if we don't nurture and empower and educate and inspire them all in one and make it sound so easy, then we're going to lose people, and that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Laura, how big a challenge is this kind of subject and this topic for PwC within their overall DEI sphere?
I think the way we think of it rather than a challenge is actually that it's a sign of success, in a way, that after kind of more than 2 decades of continuously focusing on our gender equality data, our pay gap, our, this whole agenda, to be able to constantly enhance the support we offer for our midlife women is a sign of that success, really, rather than a challenge. So it's, and this is whether that's the menopause, perimenopause, fertility, childlessness, financial well-being, domestic abuse, dependencies, whatever that may be. For us, it's that continued, we frame it as this is the continued success, of sort of over 2 decades of this dedicated, dedicated focus to ensure that our midlife women can reach the right support at the right time in a way that works for them, so that we get all those diverse perspectives, that we get, the right age diversity, that we get the retention of that, super talent that exists there, and all that institutional knowledge that we mentioned earlier, that we've got those role models, that we've got those mentors, and that we always challenging all of those stereotypes. So it's absolutely an important challenge, but we definitely try and think about it as it's a sign of continued success, that it remains so important.
Thanks. I really like how you put that positive spin on it. So celebrating the successes and not just thinking of this as another challenge in kind of the DEI space. Sarah, could you share your personal experience of some of the challenges that we've kind of hit on already in today's session?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that many challenges per se, because I'm in an office where probably there's only 2 out of 30 that are middle, my age, women, sort of plus 40. That I've kind of seen more positives than I have negatives, which I'm absolutely blessed for and thankful for, because News UK is quite a good company. It's a fantastic company when it comes to health. The reason I'm here today is through Steph, and the company offer a menopause coach who is Steph, and Steph changed my life. I can't say it any other way, in a positive way, of course, and so I'm still here. So it's quite hard for me to talk about kind of any kind of stereotyping, but I think it's just what, for me, the message I want to get across. I was trying to think about how and why did the company do it. So obviously I know why they've done it, because cost-wise and health-wise it's beneficial. But I'm trying to work out how I got to Steph, how I got to where I get. How do I get that support? And was it because I went looking for it, or did it come across from the intranet or from the email? And I think that's one of the biggest problems is, number one, women themselves identifying it. Number two, being able to put their head up and see, can they get support at work? Who would think that you'd get support from menopause? Menopause is so personal. Like, the symptoms are so, for want of a better word, horrific. From the sweat, probably everyone knows it, the sweating, crying for no reason. So many times I was sat in a corner crying with one of my managers who was so fantastic. He'd just sit there while I cried and knew that I wasn't crying about anything, absolutely nothing, just didn't know why I was crying. Whereas my other manager had seen me crying and he'd run a mile, because he's one of those guys who are like, oh my God, no, don't say any words, don't say, menstruation or menopause, any M words, didn't go. So it's kind of like, I think that the one thing I want to get across is, and this is to, I feel for the men in the room, because not even just men at work, men at home. And one of the massive, brilliant things that I've had said to me is when I've been trying to talk to, I call them kids, but when I've been talking to my team and I'm saying, right, why don't you think about getting that person on for the radio show? Excuse me. Why don't you think about getting that, what's his name? You know, he was the manager of, sorry guys, I've got menopause head. What is it? And the lads will turn around and go, oh my God, my mum's got that. It's horrible, isn't it? I'm so relieved. I'm like, I'm glad they didn't say the grandma. I'm relieved they said the mum. But I'm like, right, okay. So I'm working with people who have experience of menopause, because I would walk into a room and think, that 22-year-old kid there knows nothing about menopause. But actually, because his mum does, then I can talk about it. And I will really menopause head. And sometimes I make a joke of it, because if one of the lads can't remember something, it's my menopause catching. And that's kind of, I've got away from your stereotypes, but I wanted to get to the positives. And I don't know if it's really easy for the men in the room to switch off, to have come to this and then go, I'm bored of it. And I get it, because you know what? I didn't know or want to know about menopause until it happened, because I've not got enough time in my life. I run my life at 100 miles an hour. And if I'm going to a party tomorrow, I don't need to know. All I need to know, I'm going to a party tomorrow. Then I'll look at it tomorrow and find out what time. So menopause was in that bracket. It's like, I don't need to know about menopause because it doesn't affect me. And that's the one thing as well that we need to get across to men and to women. So I've not kind of answered your stereotype question, but I've kind of answered how it happens in a male-dominated young office.
Yeah, fantastic, thanks. And kind of sticking with that kind of menopause fatigue and not wanting to know, Steph, obviously there's been huge strides made in recent years in terms of workplace wellbeing in this country, with a huge range of support and education available on a wide range of topics. However, we also know that a lot of the challenges persist, and that all of the talk has led, as I said, to some areas having a feeling of fatigue. So how can organisations address this fatigue and keep their teams energised and focus on making positive progress in this space?
I don't know if anyone's familiar with Mad World. I chair there, and everywhere you go, every track, it's called a track, the room that you go into, you can hear that people are talking about it. And there was a really controversial question where one of the big corporates got up and said, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're doing that and we're doing this. And one of the audience said, put their hands up and said, I hear you saying that, but I've got a friend that works in your organization and is still totally run ragged. And the guy who was at the corporate said, we are doing everything we can. We take the horse to water, but we can't make it drink it. So my hat is off to everyone who is just trying something, because you have to start somewhere. And let's be real, the staff are adults, so we can show them what to do and we can teach them how to do it, but getting them to do it is a different story. And I think that from my experience, learning and not being afraid to get it wrong. So the idea of positioning it as a pilot scheme, and we're learning with you and empowering them that they can make a change. So Sarah talked about brain fog, but where do you go? Where do you go with that brain fog? What do you do with it? Now, Sarah then spoke about going out and partying. I'm not going to sit opposite Sarah and say to her, you know, you can't stop partying. You have to live like a nun and you have to stop everything. You have to stop alcohol, because it's not going to happen. So just bringing this to an example, and I won't give away any confidentiality. I met Sarah where she was and I empowered her to make the changes. And through her making those changes, that's where the shift happened. So we need to just start small, but we need to start somewhere, because starting somewhere imperfectly is better than starting nowhere perfectly.
Fantastic, thank you. And Laura, there's a follow-up question, I think, based on what Steph has just shared, is what do you do when you put all of the support in place and no one uses it? Like, as Sarah alluded to, she wasn't interested in knowing about menopause until it was very relevant and it was here and it was now. So do you see signs that something unknown is stopping people from engaging with the support? And how should we think about empowering employees to access the support that is there and is in place and is being provided?
Yeah, I think this is This one is a challenge in terms of, I mean, we've got 25,000 people here in the UK, and and a lot of support. The firm offers wonderful support, but the awareness of that is that constant challenge, and there is no silver bullet, right? It's a continuous, drumbeat that doesn't just pop up on an awareness day or an awareness week. It's plugging it into the kind of everyday experience. Probably two things that we've done. One is to get our core steering group of women who have that lived experience, who feel really passionate about sharing that and making sure that our relationship with them is close, is tight, that we are sense checking everything with them, that we are making sure that we are meeting people where they are, to Stephanie's point, that they are our kind of critical eye, that they are empowered to be able to suggest ideas to us as a central team and help make them happen. I think the other thing that we've done is try and equip our career coaches. So, that is the person who is responsible for both your professional development and your wellbeing at PwC. And we have about 9,000 of those. And, some might be great at the professional development site, and to Sarah's point, the wellbeing side might be where they get a little bit more nervous. And we've tried to just create some really practical one-pagers to make sure that they are equipped to be able to start a conversation. So not just respond if their coachee comes to them with some, opening up about an experience that they're going through, like the menopause, but actually so they can equip themselves in a really quick and easy way, but that there is, those mythbusters are there. There are the, hang on a sec, what you thought it is, can we just remind you that it's not? They do say this, don't say this. We're an organisation full of hugely intelligent people, but some really practical guidance, because otherwise people default to that, I'm scared to say the wrong thing, so I won't say anything at all. So I think making sure that constant drumbeat is there for the people that need it, but actually then looking at those people in those sort of line manager type roles and making sure they're equipped as well and empowered to start that conversation, to really check in and ask twice how people are feeling.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Steph, one of the key areas of focus with your work at Life Begins at Menopause is equipping organisations to better support their employees. So what are the key elements of your support for corporates, and how do they help organisations support employees effectively?
So we have tailored workplace training where we come in, get a feel for the nuances that I mentioned earlier, what's going on, where the gaps are, and we'll really join forces to address those topics. Like Laura says, perimenopause, menopause, whatever the range, mainly around the 40+ age bracket. And we just create that supportive environment. Root cause strategies is absolutely vital for me, because if we don't go inward and look at what's going on and tune in, then there's going to, it's going to kind of stay with us. We're not going to get results. And then that ongoing partnership, that ongoing learning and optimizing and tweaking, and not being afraid to do that. So that's how we can continue to evolve and grow and learn. That's it in a nutshell, really.
Super, thanks. Sorry, did someone have something to add on that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Super. Sarah, as line managers, colleagues or friends, we'll probably all be able to think of a time that we've been concerned that someone was struggling at work. So what are the signs that we can look out for that indicate that someone is struggling with one of the topics that we've covered today? And how can you ask someone if they're okay in a supportive way?
Unless you kind of know the symptoms, I think it is quite hard to spot, because if someone's constantly saying, I mean, the biggest one for me is exhaustion, fatigue, being tired. Actually getting out of bed to get into work. Within the last probably year, I've probably not gone into work 3 times just because I was exhausted and I just could not get out of bed. And, you know, that can make someone feel guilty, or, you know, just as if that's never happened as well. So it's being aware of your staff and seeing if there's anything untoward happening, knowing what their patterns are. If you think it might be menopausal and you don't even want to have that conversation with them, can you speak to somebody else who's a colleague of theirs? You know, if you feel that far out that, you know, if you're male or a woman that isn't used to working with that woman, then, you know, have a look around them and ask around and see what is the best way to work with that person. But spotting the symptoms it can be quite hard unless they're speaking out. But I mean, the ones I could tell you one off top of me, you know, head for you is if they're crying a lot, if they're tired, if they're moody, you know, and the brain fog. You know, if they keep forgetting words, then I think you can just go, do you know what? 1, 2, 3. You got 3 out of 6 there. Maybe that's something I can have a look. But I think hopefully a lot of women get to the age where they do talk to another woman. And I think that's the best way we're going to be able to show support in organisations. Because I think what I do now is if I come across someone, I'll go, you do know that this company offer menopause coaches, don't you? You need to speak to this person and this person. And that's how, you know, it's my line manager that told me. And I think that's the best way to do it, because that's how we do it outside of our organisations. Usually we've got a bit of a sisterhood going on, or just good mates and a crew. And you know, I nearly screen grabbed a load of conversations the other week in one of my girl gangs about all the different things for menopause. So I think as well, in the organisations, it's those water cooler moments. If you bump into someone from another division and you go, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm shattered, it's this, it's that. And then if you're confident enough, you can go, what age are you? Are you at perimenopause yet? And if they go, no, then that's when you can have a conversation as well. So I think most women would feel, especially if it's a senior person and someone else is taking an interest, I'd like to hope most women would go, oh my God, I didn't want to say anything, or I wasn't sure, but yeah. And then if you then follow it up with, well, we can help, we've got this, then I'd like to hope every single woman will go, oh my God, yeah, please help me. Because to be fair, menopause can put you at the end of your tether. I think if I didn't have HRT, I could be in Style Prison, which is a prison up in Manchester for women right now. That's how bad it can get. It can be horrific. It really can be horrific. Not for everybody, but it can for some people.
Thanks, Sarah. And then kind of conversely, what are the things that we shouldn't be saying when we think someone might be experiencing these challenges in the workplace? Kind of what do we just completely steer clear from?
Yeah, I know this all too well. I think banter definitely has its place, and banter keeps everyone's morale going, but there is a fine line between banter and actually taking the mickey out of somebody, picking on someone, and making someone feel so exposed that they don't want to then talk about it. And if it's an issue for you, the banter, then don't be afraid to speak up to the right person. It doesn't need to be to that person, because people do it innocently, especially in an environment like talk sport. You know, banter is part of the male culture, and it bonds them together. But sometimes we're just not in the mood to, you know, have the mickey taken out of us. And so it's just respecting and reading the room. Just use your common sense, read the room, just have a little bit of sympathy for what is going on, what people might not be telling you.
Thanks. Laura or Sarah, have you got anything kind of else to add to that in terms of things to not do?
I think not, you know, don't look to have the solution. Don't try and fix it. You know, don't, you know, it's listen and be able to signpost. And if you can do those two things, then, you know, you win in. To find a solution, to say, oh, well, I've heard all you need to do is this, or actually this really worked for my sister, or you know, yeah, offer some advice, but not this is all you need to do, or oh, actually, you know, what really helped me is just throw myself into work. You know, it's not. So I think equip yourself with the knowledge to signpost. Don't look to have the solution, and just listen.
Super, thank you. And Laura, earlier you mentioned around, excuse me, the kind of the employee networks that that you work with at PwC. And these are obviously a really effective way to provide a safe space for people to speak up and be heard and increase awareness through these networks. But as the number of networks grows, how do we ensure that everyone has got a platform and is treated equitably?
Yeah, definitely. And I think something, in an organisation as large as ours, we have, we've got a lot of networks, and the way we do that is to really have governance around them all, that they are structured in the same way, that they have partner sponsorship for every single one, that they have defined roles and responsibilities. So there is a comms lead, there is a events lead, and that is replicated across them all, that they have somebody that leads overall from our central team. So it's that governance piece, I think, to make sure that, that there isn't those gaps, that actually, that particular network, there's one person trying to do it on their own, alongside their busy day job, and then that becomes really hard for them to make that progress. And recognizing that it's, those people's in those roles, they roll off and roll on. It might be relevant at a certain point in their life, there might just be too much at another point. So it's having that consistent effort and maintaining that governance and really holding ourselves to account to make sure that then everything does stay equitable.
Fantastic, thank you. And we'll kind of wrap up this discussion section with another quick fire question for everybody before we move to some questions from the audience today. So if after today's session someone's motivated to make a change within their organization, doesn't really know where to start, maybe they're kind of very early days in their journey, what is the one piece of advice that each of you would give to them? Steph, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Yeah, I think the word pilot is almost like an insurance to getting it wrong. So just saying, we're doing, and I do this with my own programs. I say, this is a beta test. You're going to be part of it. We're going to learn together. And it takes bravery, because we all want to just do it perfectly, don't we? But that pilot, that idea of positioning it like, look, it's a pilot scheme. We're here. Is a great, quite a safe way to step forward and get things implemented.
Fantastic, thanks. Sarah or Laura, do you have kind of any nuggets of wisdom for those people kind of starting out in their journeys here?
I would say to a couple of things. One is to try and meet people where they are, like we've already mentioned. Go out to your organisation, invite people to anonymously connect with you. If they want to share their experience or their thoughts or their ideas, to help you articulate the challenge, so that you can go to leadership or go to whoever you need that sign off from, to really articulate the challenge and then show what success would look like. So listen to your own people about what they really need. So ours was not, we're going to roll out a menopause policy. Our women said, we don't want a policy. Do you know what we actually want? We want it when we report our absence. We want it as an absence reason, so that we don't have to say it's a headache or it's a backache or it's a cold or flu. We want to put menopause, so that we're not having to event an illness. We don't want, we want it included in our private medical scheme. We want, tangible actions. And those are the things that we then did, because we could articulate the challenge and get that sign off on it, so we and enable us to measure that success. So I think that'd be my sort of top tip to approach it.
Fantastic.
I think absolutely brilliant. I think I'm not someone who's in that position of changing anything and implementing things. I'm just a voice who's happy to feed back. But I think ideally, if you're in a position of power to change, that you get buy-in from the top. And absolutely what Laura said, what is that buy-in? Once you've got that buy-in and support, so that you can go and offer to the people who need it, okay, what do you need? Because listening to some of the things Laura said there, I'm like, oh my God, I wish we had that. I wish we had that. And it's like, that might be specific for PwC, might not be specific for Talk Sport. But actually, I'm like, wow, just that whole thing of being able to tick menopause instead of not making something up is just massive, absolutely massive. Like, I want to be able to do that, whereas I haven't. I've rang in and said I can't come into work today, I'm exhausted. You know, that, how does that make me feel? It makes me feel like, oh, what, she's exhausted, why was she out all night? You know, and that's what it is. And it's like, no, actually, I've done 5 days of late, so I'm exhausted, and menopause on top ain't helping me. You know, looking at shift patterns, for me, I think I work shifts, weekends and lates. I'm dying at the moment. I'm absolutely dying. Where can I go and talk about that? So if you are someone who can facilitate change and can drive change, go and get the buy-in, go and see what that buy-in is, and then go and find out what it is that your team need. I think that is absolutely massive, because that makes you feel so supported.
Super, thanks so much. That's the kind of the end of the questions that we had to pose today. So I'm going to ask Matt to jump in with any questions that have come in, both now as people have been posting their questions during the session, and then also all of the attendees had an opportunity to share what they wanted to hear about today. So maybe we've got some questions that were pre-submitted as well, Matt.
Thanks, Kate. Just to start with the chat, so somebody has shared, Mandy has shared that they've started in their organisation by signing up to the Menopause in the Workplace Pledge and working towards achieving the 3 commitments outlined there, which is very useful. In terms of a question that came in, we had lots of mention of symptom support, brain fog, in the sort of the questions that came in advance. Something that's come up that maybe hasn't been addressed yet is, are there any, or what are the sort of physical changes that an organisation could consider to their workplace to make it a more supportive environment for people that might be experiencing symptoms of perimenopause or menopause? So not the talking side of things, but more the physical environment in which we operate.
A really simple one that we did that has made a huge difference is made free desk fans available to anybody that needs them, and put free sanitary items in all of our restrooms. So small things, but that make that real difference. And then obviously flexible working is the biggie.
I would just add to that, and yeah, desk fan is absolutely brilliant to deal with the hot flushes. And I think that we talk about this water cooler moment, but all that is it's a bonding of getting together and sharing and offloading. And so knowing where those first aiders are, mental health first aiders, menopause first aiders are, so you know you can just grab them and just be like, I need you as soon as you're free. Please, can we go and take a moment? A big newspaper that I was working with, we're going to have a menopause room, but there's a lot of stigma to that. You walk past the menopause room and it's like, oh, look, she's in the menopause room. Woo! So it's having that discretion of, listen, I need something. When you're ready, can we just go and take a walk? So knowing where those mental health first aiders are is really key, I would say.
Yeah, and we kind of have done that as wellbeing rooms instead. So you can adjust the temperature, you can have a lie down, you can adjust the light, but it's not just for menopausal women. It could be anybody that wants to go and take a moment.
That's great, thank you. And the other thing that came up, and Sarah, you sort of touched upon it a minute ago, energy levels keep being mentioned. And I know when I was sort of reading more into the subject and reading a government report on the impact in the workplace, it's staggering the amount of time that women were reporting spending outside of their working hours, making up for what they perceive to be dips in their performance during working hours. So what can businesses do to address, and I suppose this applies to lots of different areas inside the wellbeing sphere, how can they address energy levels in the workplace and people who might be struggling for a huge variety of reasons?
Steph, I'm looking at you for this one.
I know. What do we do? I'll tell you what we don't do. I'll tell you what we don't do. First of all, we start very empathetically, right? Because you're all going to be different. What we don't do is we don't rely on coffee to bring us up and alcohol to bring us down. And that's what lots of people are currently doing. And when I do these pop-up clinics, right, and I'll see a woman opposite me and I'll say, what's that one symptom that you're dealing with? Because otherwise we'll just be overwhelmed with the myriad of things that we deal with. So we deal with fatigue, and I will start by looking at their habits. What are they doing first thing in the morning? What are they doing last thing at night? And there will be a reason why they will be having a glass of wine every night. And through teaching them how that's affecting your blood sugar balance, how that's disrupting your sleep, how that is going to be absorbed and used as energy rather than helping you rest and digest, by educating them and informing them, they can then make the decision when they're ready that, okay, that's one habit I'm going to let go of. And on the flip side, we look at their caffeine addiction. So they have that slump in the afternoon between 2 and 3, and they're using caffeine to alleviate that, which is a quick fix, and so gets them high. But when you get this high, it has to go somewhere and it drops quickly. And then in that perpetual motion, again, they have that glass of wine. So do you see these habits for what they are and start unpacking them one by one? We can start optimizing our health and dealing with our fatigue. There is amazing biohacks, so biobiology hacks that we can use to optimize lots of different parts of us. With fatigue, for example, there is a study and lots of research behind getting out first thing in the morning and looking up at the sky. Take off your glasses. Sarah's nodding because I go on about this all the time. And I do it every day. So I look up at the sky, not directly at the sunlight. And what that does is that sends a signal to your body that it's time to wake up and it's time for your internal body clock to start getting us going. And on the flip side to that, 24 hours later, we've lost Kate and she's back. She's gone for a sleep. We start winding down. And so there are just these very different ways that we can start optimizing our health, you see.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you all for your time and for answering so many questions. If I can just finish with a quick overview of who we are at the Law Mes Appeal, as I'm conscious of running out of time. I shall just share my screen. So This Is Me program is part of the Law Mes Appeal, and we run a series of programs to support organisations in creating better workplaces for their staff. And This Is Me focuses on removing the stigma around mental health at work by empowering organisations to create psychologically safe workplaces. We have two main tools. We have our This Is Me storytelling campaign, where we encourage individuals, rather like we have today, to talk about their personal experience of all manner of wellbeing issues and how that's affected their journey to date, to hopefully empower others to speak up. And we encourage senior leaders in particular to do that, to empower the change they want to see in their organisations. And we have the Green Ribbon campaign, which is a physical show of support to try and reduce the stigma that surrounds mental health. Something which has been, we've seen a lot of in recent years, and it's heading in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work to do. And we support that with a whole range of events and webinars, both in person and virtually, such as these. All our tools and resources are free to access, and they can be found on our resource hub. I will send the details around in a follow-up email after today. And I'd also like to share that our next event is our spring event, which is on 25th of March. That is an in-person event at a venue to be confirmed in London, and it'll be from 4 till 6 p.m. There'll be more details to follow on that. I'd encourage everyone just to keep an eye on our website and look out for a follow-up email from myself in the next few days following this webinar. That's it from me, so I shall hand back to you, Kate. Thank you very much.
Super, thanks so much. And apologies if you saw me disappear. My Zoom decided to crash, but I'm back. So that's super. So really, I think just to wrap up, it's just a thank you very much to everyone for dialing in. Thank you hugely to our speakers today for kind of bringing honest and positive conversation to the topic. Really appreciate your time. As Matt said, we will share both the recording and then some other resources with everybody after the session today. So keep an eye out for them in the coming days, in landing in your inbox. And if there are any follow-up conversations you'd like to have, either with Matt, as I mentioned, he's head of programs, or with me, look in terms of partnerships and the work that we do, the wider work we do at the Lord Mayor's Appeal, please do reach out and get in touch with us. Have fantastic rests of your day, everybody, and thank you again to our fantastic speakers. Thanks so much.
Good, everyone.
Good work, team.
Good work. How many were on at the most? I saw 22 when I looked.
I think I saw 25 at one point.
Laura, have you got 25,000 staff at PwC?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a
Kate,
big old place.
can people still hear us?
We've just got a couple of people that are just
Sorry,
dialing off. So we've got 2 people left in.
I shouldn't. Oh, there you go.
I
Sorry.
think that's it.
Yeah.
It's just us.
Sorry, you were saying 25,000 people. That's insane.
Yeah, it's a big old place.
Wow. That's amazing. A lot of work to do. Matt, how did you find that from your point of view?
Really good. Thank you all for taking part, and yeah, you've all been very, very patient with us whilst we've got this webinar through to completion. I thought it was really good. I think the Q&A was really, really insightful, and I think, yeah, I think there's always common threads when we're talking about well-being and supporting people with whatever challenges they might be facing. But I think it's really useful with these webinars when we're drilling into topics that are either taboo still, more taboo than the general mental health conversation, or only affect a certain sections of the population, because those are the ones that tend to get missed or swept aside when you have that general workplace well-being, stress, anxiety, depression type conversation that is very, very common, and it's definitely needed. But I think it's this nuance that these webinars are great for, and get people to think about things in a more focused way. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Fab, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much for having us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you.
No problem.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Bye, team.
Thanks,
Thanks
Speak
a
to you
lot.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.